Yeah, we've all had a chance to cool off after the Jets game, and it was a win, but geez, man, that was a tough game to watch. As a Dolphins fan, I don't know, I struggled with that one. I was pretty pissed off when that game ended. And I was watching with my wife. My wife was sitting there on the couch with me, and the Dolphins won. Tua threw the touchdown pass to Jonnu, and I just walked away. I just sighed and walked away. And my wife's like, "The Dolphins won. Why are you upset?" Like,
I need a minute.
I can't right now. I can't.
That's funny.
So Anthony, I know you gave your initial reactions on the Jets game, but now that you've had a chance to kind of, flesh it all out a little bit, what's your reaction to that Jets game now that you can think about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's real funny. I think I was putting up Christmas lights or something, and so I was checking in on the game because I thought it would be a dominant win for us. And then when I realized it wasn't going to be at halftime, I started locking into the game a little more. And I did the same exact thing. We touchdown to Jonnu in overtime. I cheered, I yelled, the dogs got scared, and right back to putting the lights up because I was like, I just can't think about this.
Yep.
Let me wait for Josh to text me and say, okay, I'm ready to go on the show, and then that's pretty much where I was. It's just funny to me how different Dolphins fans react. I was talking to a guy at work today who's also a Dolphins fan, and his reaction's so much different. It's so much like, yeah, division games are tough. At least we got the win. And I was like, God, that's not how I felt after this one.
No.
Nope. Sure wasn't.
It's still not how I feel. I get it. We've talked about how the Jets have a lot of talent on that team, but the Jets haven't utilized that talent in any of their appearances this year. I mean, they've looked just altogether awful the entire season until they play us. I mean, it was something like Aaron Rodgers hadn't had a 300-yard game in 35 games or something like that.
Was it 27 or 32 or something? It was some number like that.
I want to say it was 35. I had it written down for the last show, but I don't know where I put it. So whatever it was, let's call it 30 just to split the difference. Sure. Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown a 300-yard game in 2 years, let's say. And it was just like, of course it was against us. Of course it was against our defense that apparently forgot how to play in the secondary and had no pass rush because it's impossible against a quick release quarterback. It's 2 quick release quarterbacks in a row that we just couldn't even get hands up for. So, I mean, from an emotional raw reaction standpoint, it was disappointment, not excitement for the win.
Yeah, I was right there with you, Josh. What do you think about it, man?
Yeah, honestly, all the same. I mean, look, hindsight's 2020. A win's a win. That's great, but I also look at how you win. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the team we played in the Jets, I mean, yes, they have Aaron Rodgers, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback. As much as I don't like the person that Aaron Rodgers has become, he was a very, very, very good quarterback at one point in his career, and they have talent across the field, right? What was scary, and Anthony and I touched on this on the post game show, was they were missing Sauce Gardner and they were missing Breece Hall, and they still looked very good. Mm-hmm. I mean, so this game could have been very different and can be very different when we face them later on in the season. But I have some serious. The biggest thing I came away from this game was the defense is got a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. This offseason is going to be real interesting. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
because there are some starters that we'll talk. I'll specifically talk about one position here in a little bit. Yeah. But there are starters that one of which needs to get paid, one of which should be working at a library or a gas station somewhere. And not that there's anything wrong with those jobs for those that are listening. Sorry, but should not be on a football field is my point.
Yeah,
and there are some questions across the board, and at every level of that defense. Even at the defensive line position, which I think is probably the second strongest position on our entire team.
Got a lot of contracts ending on that side of the ball, and these guys are not making it. They're making the decisions easy. I feel like
for sure. Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah. So the secondary, it's been banged up. It's been kicked around, but Aaron Rodgers, as you guys alluded to, threw for 300 yards against the secondary. A 41-year-old quarterback threw for 300 yards against the Miami Dolphins, and he made it look easy. The guys were running free all across the secondary. Braylon Allen, who you talk about, Aaron Rodgers is probably the oldest guy in the NFL. I think he probably is. I don't.
Him and Calais. They were talking about how the two oldest guys in the NFL were facing each other.
And Braylon Allen, I think, is the youngest guy in the NFL right now. The Jets running back on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And Braylon Allen ran wild on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of question marks on this Dolphins defense. Like you said, Josh, a lot of hard conversations need to be had on that side of the ball.
Mm-hmm. And
I think some of that starts with Anthony Weber, because I think they are too talented to get carved up the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are too talented to get carved up like that. But, man, that was just a frustrating game to watch altogether. Watching – you got something to say to Anthony?
I was just thinking about that, because I was thinking in my head we're way too talented, right? And then so now I'm starting to ask myself the question, are we as talented as we think we are? Because we've gone through like 3 defensive coordinators and the defense still looks like crap, but the same players, mostly the same players. So, I'm starting to think to myself internally and now externally, perhaps we're over assessing how talented some of our players are.
Yeah. No, I mean, potentially. But Jordan Brooks had a great game. Jordan Brooks hadn't,
Sure did. Don't steal my thunder, Keith.
No, all right. Not going to steal your thunder. I know we have to get into game balls and jock straps here. You know what? On that note, let's get into game balls and jock straps, because we're going to talk about these guys.
Seamless transition.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all these guys that I'm thinking about talking about. So let's
Now it's time for the greatest segment in all of sports media. Game balls and jock straps.
That little pink G-string is so insulting. But so fitting for one player in particular.
When I was putting that together, I saw pink and it's like, yes, that's so good. Game balls and jock straps. I know Steve isn't with us tonight, so it's just going to be the 3 of us giving our game balls and jock straps. I do have an honorable mention for game balls after we're done. I think there's actually quite a few guys that deserve a game ball in this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with my game ball, and it was Tua. Yet again, he was efficient. He was smart with the football. Threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just another standout game from Tua. There's a subreddit called Top Right Tua, where it's basically just Tua all alone, in efficiency or whatever it is. And, Josh, you and I were discussing it this morning. Tua's elite. People don't seem to count him amongst the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe it's because of his lack of arm strength or his lack of durability or whatever. But when Tua's out there, he balls out, man. And what he does, he does well. He does great. He does it better than anybody else in the NFL, the accuracy and anticipation with which he throws. And it was on full display again in this game. He was hitting Tyreek. He was hitting Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith in that overtime period.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah, he's making the right reads. He's making the right checkdowns. He's escaping the pocket when he needs to. He's playing a great brand of football right now. And I think that's, we kind of buried the lead a little bit because, we talked about how the Jets ran all over the Dolphins offensively. We don't talk enough, in my opinion, about how great Tua has been since he came back from injury. So he gets my game ball.
Do you remember the thing? I can't remember the exact numbers. The thing I sent you today, since Tua came back, he's thrown for was it 1,400 yards or 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 picks, and over 74% completion percentage.
Yeah.
Something like that in the 5 games he's been back. It's like some statistic that's one of the few in NFL history.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to look for it right now, actually.
And there was one where he was the first quarterback in Dolphins history to have, 5 consecutive games or something like that.
It's 3 consecutive 300-yard games with 2 touchdown passes
and no interceptions. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mentioned this on Sunday's show, but I think it bears mentioning again, is that we have the best scripted play call series of any team in the NFL. So going to overtime and getting the ball first was not even fair to the Jets because that's a scripted series. And we took the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown. I mean, it's just
now
it's
I will
unreal.
say this, and McDaniel isn't going to get my jock strap or anything, but I do have to question McDaniel a little bit because there's a couple of times in this game where he called the same play twice in a row, and it's like, how many times are you going to be able to get away with that? Like,
didn't he get away with it every time though?
He did. The third time is when he didn't get away with it. He tried the one screen to Achane a third time and he got blown up.
Yeah. But like he threw back-to-back plays to Jonnu. That's
I loved it.
Jonnu in overtime.
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I did too. And then he threw that out pass to Tyreek Hill for the touchdown. And then on the 2-point conversion, threw the same exact play to Jalen Waddle. So I do have to say to Mike McDaniel,
playing chess, buddy.
Yeah, well,
when everyone else is playing checkers.
Maybe.
I think a bigger criticism would be when he just gets too cute. I mean, I think we had 2 3 and outs in this game where the three plays he chose to run, I was like, what are you even doing right now? Like, why get so cute when the regular stuff is working? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And one more thing on Tua. What makes what he's doing so much better, in my opinion, is the fact that the Dolphins don't have a running game right now. Their running game is essentially non-existent. And I thought it was because Alec Ingold was out before. Maybe Austin Jackson had more to do with the running game.
Honestly, that's a huge loss.
Austin Jackson had more to do with the running game than I think any of us gave him credit for. But we're really feeling that loss right now. The Dolphins need to get their running game going at some point here, especially because they're playing this Texans team that is second in the league in sacks, and we'll get into that. But what Tua is doing is made all the more impressive by the fact that the Dolphins are essentially a one-dimensional offense right now. So I'm going to go to you next, Josh. Who's your game ball?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was the easiest choice I think I've had all season. My game ball goes to Mr. Brooks himself, our wonderful, lovely linebacker. He was rated the highest linebacker in the NFL in Week 14. I think he was rated that way for a reason. He was all over the field. He played 100% of our snaps. Did not take a play off. Not a single play. 9 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hurry. He only allowed 2 receptions in coverage for 24 yards total. He had a 55.4% passer rating allowed on him, which is outstanding for a linebacker, especially given the fact that he covered, I forgot, was it Conklin? Who was their tight end? Who's Conklin.
Conklin, yeah.
He covered him from the 40-yard line into the back of the end zone and was stride for stride with him and had a PBU. He had a 91.5% overall player grade. He had a 91.4 run defensive grade and an 82.9 coverage grade. Absolutely banana stats right there, right?
Yep.
Just what a game. Just a man amongst boys on that defense. I think for as much flack as I've been giving Chris Greer as of late, this was a home run free agent sign. I mean, you could not ask for more from a free agent signing, right? I mean, we give kudos to Calais Campbell. We give, I give flowers to Kendall Fuller. I think he's a very good cornerback for us. But with those two, for as good as those two play, none of them play 100% of the snaps. Brooks is our rock on that defense, and it is amazing to finally have a linebacker that can play in the pass, in the run, in run fits. He stays disciplined. He's good in coverage. He's fast. He can lay the wood. I mean, it's amazing.
He came from Seattle too, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yep. Thank you, Seattle, for your starting middle linebacker core. I mean,
pretty much. Yeah. Although Dotson only played 8 snaps in this game, which is
Walker's starting over him.
And I do prefer Walker over Dotson, honestly.
Sure. I just figured it would be a more 50-50 split between those two.
Yeah. But I'll say this about Brooks, and I liked him in Seattle a lot. His biggest issue in Seattle was staying healthy.
Yeah.
So if he stays healthy with the Dolphins, man, sky's the limit. Because he's been so good for us. He's probably, I about to say this? He might be the best linebacker we've had since Zach Thomas.
I mean, I don't think that's
the competition hasn't been fierce. I mean,
well, that's true. That's true. The other guys, the Jerome Bakers of the world, don't set a high bar.
Yeah, I mean, who else? What other linebackers scream out at you, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
like we had Donnell Ellerby. We've had
Channing, whatever.
Channing Tindall.
No, Crowder.
Channing Crowder.
Channing Crowder. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
who was good for like a year and then fell off the world.
Yeah, Jerome Baker, who was always average.
I mean, yeah, Channing Tindall is our best draft pick of all time. So
maybe he's on special teams. At least he's playing a little bit now.
Yeah, it's actually nice to see him out there because he was the invisible man for his first 2 years in the league.
Mm-hmm. This will be his last year on the Dolphins, anyways. But that's okay.
But yeah, I love Jordan Brooks. Love the signing. Love the way he played on Sunday. One of the few bright spots for that defense, especially on Sunday.
Yeah,
the only prize.
Well, yeah, the other two. I want to make sure I'm not stealing anyone's. The other two are our two standard defensive tackles, right?
Yeah,
those are Steeler and Campbell play well every week, you know.
Also, exactly. Kendall Fuller didn't have a bad game.
No, he balled out, but he slipped on one and he ran a wrong route on the other. Like he passed something off that he shouldn't have. So I mean, there were some hiccups, but he played phenomenal. All things.
I mean,
considered.
both are starting wide receivers at over 100 yards, though. So I ain't giving anybody on the secondary a game ball.
That's fair. That's totally fair. All right, Anthony, give me your game ball.
Yeah, my game ball goes to Jonnu himself, man. I mean, come on. He was invisible for the entire game, and anybody who has him in fantasy was probably cursing his name for literally the entire game, because I know I was too. And I mean, he showed up when he needed to show up. Like you mentioned, Keith, he got 2 straight catches in overtime to get the ball rolling. It was like a 20yard gain and then a 15-yard gain. So McDaniels is like, this is great. I don't have to do
it again.
And those 2 catches got us right into field goal range already. Yeah. And then they gave it to Achane a couple times. He picked up like another 20, and then boom, touchdown to Jonnu. With another dot from Tua between 4 defenders, which I've watched.
The most beautiful plays I've seen Tua and the recipient of a pass make.
Yeah,
I've literally watched this play probably 20 times at this point because it's just.
Me too.
First of all, it's the only play they show when they're doing like the game on NFL Network or on ESPN. But because for good reason, he threw the ball in overtime between 4 defenders to hit Jonnu in the hands for the touchdown.
Stride.
I mean, in stride.
His little like drop back, and he kind of leans back and like cocks his shoulder ready to fire, and then just boop.
And I give all the credit in the world to Jonnu too. He ran the right. He ran the route. He was where he was supposed to be, and more importantly, he caught the dang ball.
Strong
I mean, this NFL season we have seen countless drops, and not just from our own players in the end zone, superstars left and right who can't seem to hold on to the ball. So I've said it for the past 4 weeks. I think Jonnu has turned his team around. He's turned the offense around. I think he's the reason that the offense is playing so well. We finally got Hill and Waddle involved in this game, which is why we didn't see Jonnu as much. That was obviously the game plan, and it was working, so we didn't need to go back to Jonnu. But when the backs were against the wall and the plays counted the most, went right back to Jonnu Smith. And God, I really hope we re-sign him. I know he's 31 years old, but please, please, please bring him back.
Give him a 3-year deal, lock him up for the rest of his career, hopefully. I mean, what is he now? He's 45 yards away from the all-time season holder in yards
for a tight end.
Tight end in Dolphins history.
Crazy.
Yeah, so he's going to get that. I would like to think.
Yeah, for those wondering, he's sitting at 61 catches for 692 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think it's 724 yards, I think, is the Dolphins record.
Yeah. So, and we talked about Jordan Brooks, being the best linebacker the Dolphins have had since Zach Thomas. How about Jonnu Smith being the best tight end the Dolphins have had since
Randy McMichael?
Yeah, Randy McMichael.
Or Fasano, maybe.
Fasano.
I mean, he's pushing the bar to be the best one we've had ever.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Anthony. I was just thinking that. We don't have a strong history of tight ends in this franchise, but man, he's been so good. And like you said, Anthony, he's just kind of just kickstarted our entire offense. and makes you wonder why McDaniel didn't use tight ends prior to this season.
Which is so good to see, because remember, in the beginning of the season, we were talking, after game 1, after that Jaguars game, I specifically remember us talking about how Jonnu looked checked out in that game. Like, he just looked like he was like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
I didn't think, I thought I would have a role in this offense when he did. I don't think he had a catch in that game.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he's kind of become a huge part of the offense.
Absolutely.
Even though he missed the one shovel pass to him, I don't know how you missed the shovel pass, but you can't be perfect.
And he missed a pretty egregious block on 3rd and 1 that would have helped extend the drive for the Dolphins. But again,
I'm sorry, I need to correct myself, fellas. He needs 102 yards to be the all-time leading Dolphins receiver in a season.
What is there, 4 games left? I think he'll get that.
Yeah. Let's get him out on Sunday. Let's get this record over with, right?
Hell yeah. I do have an honorable mention, and I know, Keith, you said you had one too.
Yes.
I will cede the floor.
Well, my honorable mention goes to Jason Sanders. Oh. He missed an extra point in this game, but man, he was automatic from field goal range, and we needed him. As time expired, he had a 52-yarder right down the middle, to push to overtime. It was my lights are flickering, so if my power goes out, I apologize. The wind's really blowing out there.
Same here.
Yeah.
I think it's a blanket statement for this show, fellas. For those listening, if one of us or multiple of us disappear, we're all experiencing some really crappy weather right now.
Yeah. We're all within like 2 hours of each other. So if one goes down, we all go down.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I just saw my lights flicker and I was just like, oh, this might not be good. But while I have you, Jason Sanders, he was automatic from field goal range, and he missed that one extra point, breaking a streak of 75 straight extra points made. So,
was that what it was? I was about to ask that. That's wild.
Yeah, and that's I'll give him a little bit of leeway on the missed extra point. Man, he was so good, and it's great to have the old Jason Sanders back, the old reliable Jason Sanders back.
Still not worth his contract, but good to have him back.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a Ravens fan right now and going through your True Prince fan. Great to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, I can't imagine being a Ravens fan right now and seeing Justin Tucker be so reliable for you all those years, and now he's just kind of
garbage.
Yeah, he's petering out, man. And maybe he'll get it back going again the way Jason Sanders has. But right now, I'm enjoying having a reliable field goal kicker.
Yep. And my two kind of honorable mentions, and I was really tossed up between these. Malik Washington for that amazing return in overtime to kick overtime off, where he like Madden truck stick the kickoff guy, the kicker for the Jets. It was amazing. And Patrick Paul, I thought, TA going out very early in this game, and Patrick Paul went in for a couple of snaps and and then TA came back in and then kind of shut it down. Patrick Paul, man, showed some stuff. I think he very comfortably can be the future at that position. I mean, I know it's a small sample size. I'm well aware of that. And I'm not trying to be a creature of the moment here, but his pass sets, his ability with his length. I mean, you can't teach length and size and girth and like the size of the human that person is, and his athletic, abilities, the way he drop steps, the way he gets into his punch, the way he reaches very well without holding. So when the defense lines up wide to rush, to do contain rushes, he's able to get out to that D end or that linebacker and seal him off. And he did it numerous times in this game. Set up Achan's, I think, his first touchdown. I think, didn't Achan get a touchdown? I'm sure
he did.
Another game. Yeah.
Yeah, he got it was one of those, one of those passes where he got blown up the third time, but
yeah, so those are my
first two times.
Exactly. So those are my two quick honorable mentions before we get into Jock Straps.
Yeah, I love it. And Patrick Paul, you're so right about him.
Mm-hmm.
And I meant to mention him, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
He was really good in this game, and it's encouraging because pretty sure this is Teron Armstead's last season. He contemplated retirement last off season. I think this might be it for him. And if it is, well, they're apparent to have. And what a better heir apparent to have than Patrick Paul. So I'm gonna move on to Jock Straps if that pleases the court.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Anthony, why don't you start me off with your Jock Strap?
Oh, everybody knows what's coming here because I pick on him all year. I've given him a game ball once upon a time. He instantly made me regret giving him a game ball because he just went right back to being a piece of crap. It's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey, where are you at, man? You're supposed to be the superstar corner. Goodness gracious, dude. I hope we don't sign you again. Or he's probably signed beyond this year, knowing my luck. Dang it. I hope we trade you.
3 more years.
I didn't like Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. I didn't like him with the Rams. I don't like him with the Dolphins. I'm just not a Jalen Ramsey fan. And he was one-on-one with Garrett Wilson in this game. Wouldn't you know, Garrett Wilson had 7 for 114, one of his biggest games of the year. Jalen's just, I don't know, man. He's all flash, no substance to me. Like, this is a guy that makes a lot of big plays in a safety kind of perspective. Like, he's good at rushing the passer and making disruptions when he gets in the backfield. And he's good at playing the deep zone where he kind of just keeps an eye on a section of the field. But anytime he's forced to play man-to-man, I mean, we saw it in Jacksonville. He gets smoked by Brian Thomas, his first game in the NFL. Brian Thomas is just like, this is easy because this Jalen Ramsey guy
does it twice. He does it twice.
And, I mean, so again, he's in man-to-man with Garrett Wilson. I don't think all 7 catches were on Ramsey, but many of them were. Maybe 6 of them. I don't know. But it was just awful. I don't know what else I could say. I just because I'm gonna come across shortly as a little Grinch-like or biased even because I don't like Jalen. But man, I just like if you're this touted top guy, you should be way better than he is.
Yeah. I also think, and I'm not trying to make excuses for Jalen Ramsey, but I think Garrett Wilson is a rough matchup for him. You know, Jalen Ramsey is a bigger, more physical type of guy, and Garrett Wilson, he would like Devontae Smith is a better matchup for Jalen Ramsey than Garrett Wilson. He was shifty. Devontae Adams, sorry, yeah.
But they chose to pair him with Wilson, right? I mean, he doesn't normally travel, and then he was traveling this time with Wilson, so they thought he would win that matchup.
He did not.
He did not. Garrett Wilson certainly got the better of him, and there was a couple of times where Jalen Ramsey got absolutely cooked, like not just beat, cooked.
I mean, let's not forget also, fellas, that Garrett Wilson is, as much as I hate the Jets, I mean, I despise everything about the gangrene, right? But Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, is a top 6, 7 receiver in this league. So, we have a young, still getting better wide receiver with a quarterback who finally remembered how to play. And against us.
I completely agree with you, but this guy's touted Jalen's touted as a superstar, and superstars against superstars are supposed to win sometimes.
It's more like superstar versus half a star.
Yeah, half a star. He's coming to taking my line. I'm taking somebody else's, so it doesn't matter.
I agree with Jalen. I don't dislike Jalen Ramsey quite as much as you do, Anthony.
Neither do I. I get your point.
He's quietly had a very solid season this season for the Dolphins, but this game was by far his worst.
If this is a solid season, I don't want to see a good season, fellas, or a bad season. I mean, you know what I meant.
But recency bias might be playing a little bit because you look at his statistics. To Keith's point, you look at his year-round statistics and what he's done for this team. He's put together a pretty damn solid season. Now he's still. In the big moments when you need him to show up, he disappears.
I mean, he faces Nico Collins this week, so I'm not feeling very good about it.
Nope. Well, I'm feeling better about it because CJ Stroud has taken not just a single step, but 5 or 6 steps back, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But I also think Nico Collins is probably a better matchup for Jalen Ramsey than a Garrett Wilson.
I think Nico's a better wide receiver than Garrett, though, so I'm not too excited about it.
I don't agree with you, but
we can debate that one. Both Ohio State guys.
Shit out of that
but we can debate that one. But man, that's tough. Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Josh, give me your jock strap.
Yeah. So actually, before I get into my jock strap, I'll talk about this after my jock strap because Jalen Ramsey, I think, going forward, might be the perfect replacement for both of these starting positions. You see where I'm going with this?
I do.
So my jock strap is kind of an entire starting group, right? Which is the starting safeties. Poyer is forever on my shit list. Pardon my French for those that are young and listening to the show. If you're young and listening to this, cover your earmuffs.
Earmuffs.
But Poyer will forever be on my shit list. And I got to be honest with you, I've been very, very disappointed with Javon Holland.
Terrible year, man.
Yeah.
Coming in the worst time to have such a bad year when he's due for a contract extension, and that's what worries me about Javon Holland. Now, coming into this year, to me, Javon Holland was a top 3, top 4 safety in this league. He was amazing in the run. He was really, really good in the pass. He was disruptive, and man, he could lay some wood on some players. But he has regressed in every single statistical category, and not by a little. And
he's looked bad.
I think right now, I don't even know if he's in the top 25 safeties in the league. And he's going to want to be paid like he's the best safety in the league. And so I very easily and would agree with the front office, whether that's Chris Greer, spoiler alert, or somebody else. If you're interested in that, go check out our last show where Anthony and I dished on Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. But,
it's been split into its own segment. It's on the YouTube channel.
Yes. But the starting safeties really did not show out well at all. And I think they were part of the problem. Right. I mean, I think they contributed to our starting cornerbacks in Ramsey and Fuller and Cater having some bad series, right? Because if our starting cornerbacks are playing up close, assuming that the second and third line of defense is going to be there and they are both out of position because they both had brain farts, then naturally you're going to get burned. Right. So, I've been very not for whatever the hell my opinion's worth. I've been very disappointed in Javon Holland, and Poyer can go be a bag boy somewhere for all I care. But yeah, there you go. But I think to my earlier point, I apologize, Keith. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I really could see a scenario in which, because Jalen Ramsey's getting older, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, but he could transition into a safety role from a starting quarterback role and be very good. I mean, wasn't he that in Jacksonville?
I think it was the Rams. He was,
or Rams. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think he played safety for the Rams.
Well, he played a little bit of safety for Florida State, Josh.
He did. He did, and I'm a Florida State guy. I watched him.
Yeah.
Play. Yeah. he was he was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
On that defense in college, and when he went into the NFL to Jacksonville, he played a little bit everywhere. He was a light linebacker in nickel. He played the nickel. He played the outside cornerback. He played strong safety, free safety. I can't remember. But I could easily see a scenario in which we don't re-sign Holland because of his price, and Ramsey eventually moves into that role. Should we decide to keep him long term?
I could totally see that happening. Great cornerbacks have made that transition in the past. I'm looking at Charles Woodson. I'm looking at Rod Woodson. Guys of that ilk. Aeneas Williams was a great safety later on in his career.
Good pull.
So I can see Jalen Ramsey making a similar transition. I think he has the mind for it. Much to Anthony's chagrin, because I know you're not a Jalen Ramsey fan, but I do think maybe at this stage of his career, he might be better suited to that safety position.
I was wrong too. He played safety last year with Jacksonville. He played corner for the Rams. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but I mean, coming out of college at Florida State, I looked at Jalen Ramsey as a safety, more so than a cornerback. And then he became a lockdown cornerback, and good for him. But I think maybe his athleticism has regressed to the point where he should make the move back to safety. So I agree with what you're saying there, Josh.
Yeah, I look at Ramsey as like Minka Fitzpatrick before Minka, right?
Yeah.
He's what spurned or what pushed players like Minka to be that kind of Swiss Army knife, kind of put me where you need to kind of player, right?
Don't bring up Minka, man. We let an all-pro walk, and then we get rid of the coach the next year.
He was so good. Yeah. Could you imagine this defense with Minka on it?
Yeah, Minka and Javon Holland.
Stupid. Well, I can.
We may not have Holland if we had Minka still. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, true. Good point.
Well,
but yeah, so I agree with your jock straps there, and that goes into my jock strap, which was Anthony Weaver. I don't think he had, and we're keeping this on the defensive side of the ball.
I just noticed
all
that.
3 of us. Well, deservedly so. Aaron Rodgers put up a ton of yards on us, 26 points. It's
Over
unacceptable.
400 yards of offense, right?
Yeah, it's unacceptable to me. Anthony Weaver looks great in a t-shirt. He's wearing that tight t-shirt. His guns were popping out and everything. But you know what? Dude did not have an answer for what Nathaniel Hackett was throwing at him.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
I don't think Hackett's actually calling plays for them anymore, though. Right?
No, they said during the game that he is the one calling the plays for them.
Goodness, we got ropey dope by Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah,
that feels even worse. Why would you say that?
All right, my Jock Strap goes to the Miami Dolphins. I'm out for it.
So, that's kind of you got played by Nathaniel Hackett. You got played by a 41-year-old quarterback.
With a very quick release. Look, I mean, for all, we crap on Aaron Rodgers, rightfully so. But when we tout Tua for being the fastest release in the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers is an eighth of a second fast or slower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty damn fast, fellas.
Agreed. But Aaron Rodgers has not looked like Aaron Rodgers this season.
No, he has not until he faced us.
Yep. He had a return to form against the Miami Dolphins.
I've heard that playing the Dolphins is like the fountain of youth for being an NFL quarterback. Like, you play us, and that's it. You're revitalized.
Yep.
Clearly. But, with that, the Jets have looked bad offensively this season. They play the Dolphins. They play Anthony Weaver's defense. And suddenly they look like not just a functional offense, a good offense. So for that, I blame Anthony Weaver, first and foremost. Anthony, if Jalen Ramsey covering Garrett Wilson one-on-one is not working, then you should transition off of that and do something different.
Yeah, I mean, you got Kendall Fuller on the other side, especially with Kendall Fuller back and healthy. It's very shocking that didn't happen.
In Cater, look, I think Cater would have done a phenomenal job on Garrett.
I agree.
Really, personally.
I agree. But again, Anthony Weaver didn't make these adjustments. The safeties weren't playing good football. Anthony Weaver didn't put them in the best position to succeed. He keeps on trotting Jordan Poyer out there for some reason.
I mean, Marcus May makes an interception in the end zone his first game with the Chargers.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. Like we kind of could have used that, Yeah.
But... Yep. I don't want to. Let's not get me riled up about Jordan Poyer.
Listen, but we've talked about Elijah Campbell all season about how he's progressed, and it's like, I mean, what are we playing for at this point? Give him a chance, I know we're playing for the playoffs technically, but what is Poyer playing for? Like, is the real question.
To be the lead bagman at the local Publix. For those that are in Miami,
that's an honorable role.
It is, and he'll probably fumble the bag too.
Prestigious honor right there.
He probably dropped the grocery bag too. But
they don't have plastic bags in New York, and he's been in New York for the past few years, so he doesn't even know what those look like. He's messing around with it.
We shit on him so much; it's so great. Okay,
but the point is, Weaver is the guy I blame more than anybody else.
Well, it comes down to
the debacle that was the Dolphins defense on Sunday, and he needs to right that ship against the Texans this upcoming Sunday. So with all that being said, we've got our game balls and jock straps out of the way. I do want to shout out True Fins fan here. Jock strap for me is Mike McDaniel. 10 days to prepare. It took you 5 quarters to remember you have John Smith. Hey, fair criticism.
Yeah, but I will say this, True Fin fans, they were obviously game planning to take Jonnu away because they knew Jonnu. If you looked at our last 5 games since Tua's come back, 4 of them Jonnu was the first read.
Yeah.
Right. And they were double and tripling Jonnu. They had an underneath cornerback. They had somebody over top. They were doing, and that's why Hill and Waddle blew up, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing I got to say is watching Cincinnati is, 100% of the time that Jamar Chase is the first read, and yet they have no problem getting him the ball. So it really drives me a little batty that we can't do the same.
I mean, look, for as much as I love Jonnu Smith, he's not fucking Jamar Chase, guys.
No, I know. No. We got Tyreek Hill.
That's slipped. Yeah. But also, don't forget, a lot of those balls are Jamar Chase doing some magic jumping out of doing some 360 catch behind the back kind of thing.
But there was also some shallow crosses that Joe Burrow was hitting Jamar Chase on
Yep.
And Jamar Chase was taking him for 15, 20 yards or whatever. Like, I agree with what Anthony's saying. Like, you need to scheme a way to get Tyreek Hill the ball more.
You know what they also pointed out, which I didn't actually recognize because how many Bengals games am I watching? Is the same offense, but they don't do any motion. The Bengals.
Nope.
It's like they were talking about how surprising that was that Zach Taylor doesn't really implement the motion because he comes from that Shanahan tree where it's all about motion. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
it's very straightforward style of offense, and you know what? Offense is not the reason the Bengals are losing games this season.
Thank God we don't play them.
yeah. Oh my God.
That game, take the over. Take the over.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Burrow is playing great football, and for Zach Taylor, and they're getting those guys the football. Same way Tua has been with the Dolphins. Honestly, it's been cool to see, but you know what? The defense let the Dolphins down same way the Bengals defense has been letting Joe Burrow down. Defense let the Dolphins down in this game.